Do you have a 2004 or newer four-wheel drive Ford truck and you feel like it's binding? Like when you're turning, you feel like it's just not turning smooth? Well, that could be because your four-wheel drive system is activated when it should not be. It's actually a really common problem. I'm going to show you how this system works and how to identify if it's failing. Nuts and bolts with Tone here, guys, and today we have a Ford truck, four-wheel drive Ford truck that the concern is that the customer feels like the four-wheel drive is always engaged. So you got to switch to two-wheel drive and you're turning and you just feel like you're binding as you're turning. That's what it kind of feels like. Feels like it's fighting each other. Well, in turn it is, because your back wheels are driving straight and your front wheels are turned like this. And so we're doing this as we're turning. Well, it'll actually destroy your four-wheel drive system. So what's going on there is that your four-wheel drive is activated when it should not be. Now that could be, now Ford uses what's called an IWE, an integrated wheel end. And that is about that long. It's got two vacuum ports to come out of it, and it's got a section that retracts like this when it's not operated. So when you get it from Ford, it's going to come out of the box and it's going to be about this big. And then when you activate it, it goes from about that big to about that big. And you bolt it up to the hub. So what happens is you have your IWE. When it's fully extended out, it's locked up to your hub. And then your axle is in turn locked into your IWE. Well, when you apply vacuum, what it does is it pulls a splined collar in, and that disengages the axle from the hub. And that's how it works. It's always connected to the hub, and as soon as you disconnect it from the axle, that's when it's in two-wheel drive. So a splined collar internally disengages the axle. So what happens here is that you can have a bad diaphragm in your IWE. You can have a bad vacuum connection at the two vacuum ports. You could have vacuum hoses that have cracked or deteriorated or come disconnected. You could have a bad check valve. You could have a bad solenoid, and you can have a bad reservoir. So the computer turns on, when you're in two-wheel drive, the computer turns on the solenoid, has engine vacuum on one side, and then it goes through a check valve, and then it goes down to the IWE. Well, all of that system is dependent upon the solenoid working, your check valve holding vacuum, your reservoir being able to hold vacuum. Because if your check valve goes bad and you're going up a hill, you lose vacuum. Well, now your check valve's bad, you have no vacuum. Now your IWE is going to extend, and now you're in four-wheel drive going up a hill. So that's kind of how it works. Now, how do you know if it's working? Well, you start up the vehicle and you lift the front wheels off the ground. And can you spin the front wheels without spinning the axles? Because if you're just sitting there running, it shouldn't be in four-wheel drive. So the biggest problem with this system is that its normal released position is four-wheel drive. So you kind of have to pull it out of four-wheel drive. So that's always a bad thing when your resting place is in four-wheel drive. Kind of like a vacuum, kind of like a fuel pressure regulator. A fuel pressure regulator, when it fails, it's closed, deadheading fuel pressure to give you maximum fuel pressure in case there's a problem. In a transmission, you got an electronic, you got a EPC. And what that does is it controls line pressure. Well, when it fails, its default is max line pressure. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to even limp it home. You would be stuck. You would just stop dead in your tracks. So that's the problem with this system. I'm going to show you how this works and also how to replace it. It's not super difficult, but if you don't know a couple steps along the way, you're going to be fighting yourself in the repair. Before we get started, hit the like button, hit subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified of all my future content. Let's get going.
First step, we're going to go ahead and remove this little cap here. A lot of times there's an indentation here. Just stick a screwdriver in there and pop that out. Going to come back here and disconnect these vacuum lines right here, like that. There's going to be 3 8mm bolts right there around the perimeter. Take those out of the IWE. Going to undo this 8 holding the ABS sensor and this 10 holding the brake line bracket. You're going to go ahead and use a pry bar and push your pistons in so that way you can take your caliper off without, getting stuck. Then you're going to take your caliper off and just hang it with a bracket over here. And it's going to be 21mm for your 2 brake caliper bolts, and then get your rotor off. Just hang it something like this right here from the frame. Take your rotor off, and then you're also going to take your backing plate off. To be able to get your ABS sensor out, you need to take this backing plate off, 3/8. You're going to need a 5mm Allen right here. Put your Allen in there and then tap this with a hammer, and then it should come out. If you don't, you'll strip it out. It won't go in the bolt far enough. One thing that makes it easier is putting a pull jack underneath your lower control arm or a jack. This is the Sunex Tools short pull jack right here. This truck's lifted, so it's really hard. You can see this upper control arm is stretched as far as it can go. So if I didn't have anything under there, and I'm going to have to put a pry bar here to loosen this up. So having a jack under here helps. You also want to go through here and go ahead and take a screwdriver and a blowgun and blow off as much dirt and nastiness here so that way it doesn't get inside your bearing. Your outer tie rod nut's going to be 21mm, so go ahead and knock that out. And then you can just hit this with a hammer all around here and this will pop. So just leave that there. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to undo your upper control arm bolt here. This 13mm nut, take that out as well. But you're going to have to put a pry bar here. If your truck's lifted, you can see I can't really get a socket here, so I have to pull it down, and then that gives me a little bit of room to get a socket in here. So once you get your upper control arm unbolted and your tie rod, and you got your nut off of here, what you want to do is, so this isn't going to move away because the axle's so far through. So just put something in the tip here and hit it. And as the axle goes back, the control arm will fall away. And this is what it will look like here. And then from here, you're going to take your IWE, which is this part right here with the vacuum ports, and you're going to hit it just here and here and here and here. And eventually you'll be able to get a screwdriver under there and you'll be able to pry it out. Once you get it popped out of the knuckle, then you're going to have to take your axle and you're going to have to kind of bend it like this and get it out from inside the bearing, and you can slip your IWE out. And it will pop out like this. So now I can take my axle and I can finagle it to where the axle is out of the knuckle and slip the IWE out, and then we need to clean all inside there. So here's your IWE like this. This is what it looks like right there. There's the inside that goes towards the bearing. So you can see this part is pushed out. So what you want to do is you want to push this down flush and plug both vacuum ports, and then it will stay collapsed. So you can see right here, I got both ports plugged, and I let go, and it stays collapsed. And so now we're going to go ahead and put our axle inside of this, and then move the axle to the inside of the bearing, line this up, and go ahead and bolt this up. So once you've got the bolts snugged up, you're going to go ahead and slide your axle in, and you're going to work your knuckle up like this and work the axle in, and then go ahead and get your nut and put your nut on, and then that'll keep your axle in. Then you're going to get your upper control arm down onto your knuckle and get your bolt started. And I just leave these plugged until I'm all done putting it back together. And it's going to look like this. You're going to have your axle in. Go ahead and tighten that down. You got your upper control arm all bolted up. And next thing you're going to do is go ahead and put your tie rod on. And pretty much from here is going to reverse install everything. Don't forget your cap. So once you've got everything back together, you're all done. It's all tight. Now go ahead and pull your caps off of here. And then make sure that you connect your vacuum hoses. And make sure that they both connect like that. Should look just like that. It should be good to go.
After watching this video, you should feel pretty familiar with how this IWE system works. pretty cool that the way that you operate this is that you push the IWE. If you didn't know how to do this, putting this together without having the proper procedure is quite difficult because you got your IWE that's extended like this. So by depressing it and making it this thin and capping the vacuum ports, putting it in, you have all the room in the world to get everything lined up, get everything snugged up before you pull those caps and then it extends out. You're not fighting that IWE. So should feel pretty confident. Also, how to diagnose this system, because now you see how it works from the inside. So thanks for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.